So, with my topic, do you think I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room? The elephant that we're taught not to talk about in public. The one that can be dangerous, not physically, but socially and politically, because it can be very controversial. The elephant that has caused a lot of wars and conflict. And this elephant is called religion. But relax, I'm not going there. Honestly though, how many people think of this word, religion, when you see this one? I had to address the elephant in the room right away because I've had countless experiences like this. When I tell people the topic of my academic research, exploring the place of spirituality and health promotion, I watch puzzled faces. Usually, people restrict spirituality to the domain of theology and religious studies, and they have no idea about the richness of the data that I've gathered. My research suggests that spirituality is much broader than religion. I like to think of spirituality as an umbrella, under which religion is one path, but there are also many other paths. And one of those will lead me to a story about my horse, Winnie. But I'll come back to that. This was me just a couple of weeks ago. I was feeling frantic, frazzled, and fragmented, pulled in many directions. I fit right in with what some people consider our dehumanized North American society. Dehumanized by our preoccupation with money and time. Dehumanized by our busy lifestyles and this culture of do more to be more. Dehumanized by our addiction to technology. And all of this is increasingly isolating us from our own hearts, each other, and the natural world. And when we feel like this for too long, we tend to turn to things to numb the pain of being human in today's chaotic world. Alcohol and drugs are at the top of the list, but also think about binging, excessive exercise, food, sex, shopping, social media, the list goes on. Dr. Gabor Mate, a physician out in BC, has actually written a few books on addiction and talks about it as a spiritual crisis we are undergoing. I believe that spirituality may very well be a missing piece of the puzzle. We live in a society that talks a lot about healthcare and promoting health, but that very often doesn't include spirituality for fear of it being equated with religion. And I'd like to suggest that perhaps we've tossed the baby with the bathwater, throwing away spirituality with religion as our society has become progressively secular. Ponder the possibility of a link between the mental health crisis that we're currently facing and a lack of focus on the importance of spirituality. And through my research, I have come to believe that this spiritual crisis that Dr. Mate talks about could be related to this noticeable missing puzzle piece within health promotion. But first, let me explain the unique context of how I came to my research. So during my education here at Queen's University, I continually noticed a gap in discussions of health and health promotion. You have to understand that I grew up immersed in a holistic understanding of health, a philosophy of body, mind, spirit. It's a very interconnected way of understanding health and the world. But there was this gap, because in my courses, I was constantly surrounded by discussions of health largely focused on the body component. As an academic field of study, health promotion is mostly concerned with physical health behaviors, eating habits, exercise, smoking, drug and alcohol use. So it was this gap between how I grew up and these common understandings of health that a seed was planted in me, a seed that bloomed into my master's thesis research, exploring the place of spirituality in Canadian health promotion. This book is a key health promotion textbook, and it's no small book either, as you can see. It's what anyone encountering health promotion in a university setting will have some exposure to, and so it could be considered the health promotion textbook in Canada. This book sparked my research, because when I got a copy of this latest edition, I was curious to look at the chapter titles for mention of spirituality or spiritual health, but didn't find any. Going to the back and looking in the index, those words also don't appear. So this book became my academic playground. I used it as my sampling frame of leading health promotion experts across the country, and I interviewed 13 of the authors, which is nearly 1/3 of the total contributors. And I took that as a promising sign that this is a topic people think is important to discuss. So my research had many insights. I've been told I should write my own book, and I'm going to share 3 major ahas with you today. And I framed these as questions, pondering the powerful illumination that spirituality might offer in dehumanizing times. The first is, what if we use different language to talk about spirituality? One of my participants said, you don't have to believe in God to have a sense of spirituality. To neutralize any of these uncomfortable feelings people might have with this word spirituality, some scholars suggested being subtle and using words or concepts like mindfulness-based stress reduction or breathing techniques. Other subtle language included meaning and purpose, and the idea of being on a path that feels meaningful to us. Overall, my research suggests that spirituality can include the following key aspects. First is a connection with self. And for some people, not all, this involves an individual relationship with a greater force above and beyond ourselves. And that can take different names: God, Allah, Creator, universe, higher power, spirit, just to give a few examples. But it could also be the idea of the inner self, and whatever practices one does to find inner peace and inner strength. Second is a connection to others, community, and ancestors. Third is a connection to nature, environment, and non-human animals. And linked to this is the idea of beauty. So that could be the contemplation of beauty, the feelings that come from being in a beautiful place, experiences that cause awe, wonder, and joy. This could be in nature, but it could also be human-created beauty through art, dance, music, and other creative activities. It's interesting to note that Indigenous cultures around the world have included many of these aspects in their way of being and living. And perhaps we have something to learn from these traditions. Overall, I think we can understand spirituality to be a heart-centered and a heart-opening approach to life, one that emphasizes the interconnectedness of life and relationships. This new understanding of spirituality led me to my second insight. What if the material is the spiritual? Traditionally, we might think of spirituality as that connection or that individual connection to a transcendental being or force. But if we broaden the understanding of spirituality, using different language to talk about the essence, so connection to nature, art, and beauty, this places spirituality firmly in the material world in which we live, work, and play. One of my participants emphasized that for thousands of years, art has been an essential part of what it means to be human. And now many of us neglect that. We need to remember that Earth without art is just eh. Connection to Mother Earth and to nature came up often in many interviews. But as I was told, we're 80% urbanized, and we spend 90% of our time indoors. So how do we connect to nature then? Asked slightly differently, the question could be, are we creating beautiful spaces around us? Spaces that offer opportunities for peace, tranquility, contemplation, meditation, and putting the mind at rest. And this is particularly important in the workplace, because as adults, we spend approximately 1/3 of our lives at work. And several of my participants talked about the sterility of buildings and workplace environments, and suggested that we needed to inject them with nature, art, and color. So using brighter, uplifting colors instead of the institutional grayscale, which is monochrome, boring, and depressing. And this brings me to my third insight. What if spirituality is a key missing puzzle piece for mental health? If we take a look at this word, and then we see this, we could ask, is there a connection between nature, mental health, and spirituality? And it appears so through the concept of solastalgia, a term coined by a psychologist in Australia, Glenn Albrecht. And essentially, solastalgia is the mental health consequences of having your environment destroyed. So if a broadened understanding of spirituality includes beauty and nature, the destruction of nature around us could be considered a despiritualizing experience. And we're exposing whole populations to this, creating this societal sense of solastalgia, that we can't get solace from our environment. I believe that the power of spirituality is to recover a sense of the sacred in ourselves and in everything around us. Reconnecting to a view where we, as humans, are just one part of the ecological web. Through my research, I've come to believe that the material is of the spirit. And to me, there's no more powerful an example than that of my horse, Winnie. So Winnie lives 2 hours away, and just a couple of weeks ago, when I already had enough on my plate, I found out that she had suddenly gone lame, limping badly as she came into the barn for feeding time. And this is a pace very unlike what food normally produces. Now, horses can go lame at any point unexpectedly, but in the spiritual worldview that I hold, there's no coincidence. Things happen for a reason. And especially if things happen to loved ones close to us, we better sit up and pay attention. And what made me particularly pay attention was that this same situation happened exactly a year ago to the month and almost to the day. So what was going on back then? I was at the final stages of completing and defending my master's and feeling frantic and frazzled, thinking that I needed to take this degree, go out into the world, and do something with it to prove myself. Fast forward to just a couple of weeks ago, and again, feeling frantic and frazzled, this time preparing this talk, and also adjusting to a new, quite demanding job at the university. I also thought that I could continue to keep growing my health and wellness business and keep seeing private clients for coaching sessions and keep teaching yoga multiple times a week and, well, you get the picture. When I took time to slow down, be still, and tune inwards, I asked myself, what message could my horse, Winnie, be trying to communicate to me? And what I got is that it's okay to slow down. It's okay to do less and be more. and make time for self-care, just like she got her foot soaked every day until she was better again. I realized that once again I had fallen into the trap of thinking that I needed to do more. Dr. Brené Brown calls it hustling for your worth instead of knowing your value. This whole situation made me decide not to apply for the permanent position of the job, which would have provided me, well, let's just say more money than teaching yoga. And I don't expect that you might make the same decision as I did, but I do ask you to think about the following questions. What are you making time for in your days? And are you connecting to the parts of you that make you human? Lao Tzu tells us, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. We seem to forget that we are human beings, not human doings. Through my master's research and, as recently emphasized by my horse, Winnie, I invite you to bridge the gap. Consider doing a little less and being a little more. Enjoy the beauty of nature. Unapologetically take time to slow down, be still, and breathe deeply. Connect a little more to your own heart. And as Howard Thurman told us, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, and go do it. Because what the world needs is more people who have come alive. Thank you.